It's essential that there's a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives come next January after a win in the midterms, because we need a House of Representatives that will be in the majority to conduct vigorous oversight of just about every federal agency and department at this moment, to ensure accountability and to hold this president and his administration accountable to the people, to our Constitution, and to our country.
That is Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger last night after voters in her state approved a constitutional amendment to redraw congressional districts ahead of this year's midterms. The results prompted this response from Ari Fleischer, a former White House press secretary for President George W. Bush, who usually writes in favor of most everything Donald Trump does. He wrote this, quote, "If you're going to pick a fight, at least win it." He continues, "All this was foreseeable and avoidable. We should not have started this fight." Good morning. Welcome, Morning Joe. It's Wednesday, April 22nd. With us, we have co-host for 9 a.m. hour, staff writer for The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire, also co-host of the Rest of Politics podcast, the BBC's Katty Kay, U.S. national editor and columnist at the Financial Times, Ed Lucen, senior writer at The Dispatch and a columnist at Bloomberg Opinion, David Drucker. And Willie, I mean, that is the case. They started this fight because Donald Trump said, "I want my 5 seats in Texas. I deserve my 5 seats in," or whatever. And it just reminded me so many times when I first got up to Congress, you know, a certain speaker would do something, plan something, and it seemed like the greatest idea. And then the Democrats would go, "Oh, okay, well, we're going to do this in response." And I remember
right.
Time and time again, people standing up going, great idea, but you've got to start planning your response to their response to your great idea. And that's what's happened here. The Democrats are going to end up, you know, at least doing as well in redistricting. And then here comes the real rub for Republicans. You cut these districts too close, like they're thinking about now doing in the state of Florida. And mark my words, Florida, you cut these districts too close in an election that's a bit of a landslide, like this year's probably going to be. Then suddenly you take a really bad situation and make it much, much worse. So instead of losing 20 seats, you might lose 35 or 40 seats because the margins have been trimmed down to supposedly help one party or the other. But then the tidal wave comes. So, again, Ari Fleischer was right there. They should have never started this. And anybody that dares complains about what the Democrats are doing have to remember it's all in response to something that was completely avoidable.
And completely predictable as well. I mean, Governor Newsom in California said even when they were talking about redistricting in Texas, okay, then we'll do that in California, too. And then that spread around. Illinois said, all right, we'll do that in Illinois. And now last night we see we'll do it in Virginia, too. But this is what happens when you have a party whose membership blindly follows Donald Trump down every path. They don't stop, perhaps, to consider the consequences. And so what you had last night in Virginia, and we'll talk to Governor Spanberger, by the way, in just a few minutes here on Morning Joe, was a reaction to that could, in fact, swing control of the House come this fall. You know, there are principled stands where Democrats say, well, we shouldn't do the bad thing that Republicans are doing, too. But then I think there are a lot of Democrats this morning who appreciate the fight that Virginia Democrats showed and said, you know what, if they're going to play the game this way, then we have to play it this way, too. And if we play, we're going to win. And last night they did. The margin wasn't huge. Republicans are taking some solace in that. But at the end of the day, there's not much solace to be taken in the fact that they're going to lose a whole bunch of seats in Virginia.
Yeah, yet another loss. And John Lemire, Republicans, again, already growing skeptical of a lot of Donald Trump's suggestions, especially if you look over at the Senate majority, where he comes over and says, you have to change the filibuster. No, we're not going to change the filibuster because if we do that now, Democrats are going to do it to us and we're going to get run over. There's so many things that, again, Donald Trump has suggested that the Senate does, that you've had Thune and others pushing back, not because they wouldn't like that short-term gain, but they know the long-term consequences are bad. It's like attacking the Pope. They're attacking the Pope. Now, maybe that feels good on Easter morning or whenever the president decides he's going to attack the Pope. But why? That's not going to work out well for you. It's bad. I don't know why that would feel good for any president to do. To be the first president, I guess, he always wants to be different. So he's thinking, I'm going to do something, by golly, that no president has ever done before. I'm going to attack the Pope. And he did. And J.D. Vance attacked the Pope. And then they said, we're going to do something that is never done. We're going to redistrict in the middle of the decade and see how that goes. And then the president says, I'm going to do something that 7 presidents haven't done before. I'm going to attack Iran. There's a reason 7 presidents before him didn't attack Iran. Because while they're all scratching their heads going, the Strait of Hormuz, why, who would have ever thought about that? Every president thought about that. Every national security advisor thought about that. Every secretary of defense thought about that. Every commerce secretary thought about that. Every person around a president in the National Security Agency thought about that. But they just went ahead and did it. And right now, here we are. Is it open? Is it closed? No. There are ships that are being fired upon right now. So you can look at Iran. You can look at redistricting. You can look at tearing down the east wing of the White House. You can look, of course, at redistricting. And again, all of these things where the president acts just on gut instinct, there's always blowback. And usually, it's not good for the Republican Party. There's an AP poll out this morning, which I'm sure the president will say is fake news, but an AP poll that has him at a 33% approval rating. Now, I haven't seen numbers that low since George W. Bush, the low points of the Iraq War. Well, there's a reason. Iraq, Iran, they sound the same. You just change a Q for an N. You get into a quagmire over there. You could make the argument that while Iran poses a grave threat to the world, you can make the argument that if the president gets out without the Strait open and without getting rid of the nuclear material there and Iran's nuclear program, this will actually be a bigger geopolitical defeat than Iraq, because we've totally screwed up the entire world economy. But my goodness, Tehran's a long way from Richmond, Virginia, which is where this conversation started. But I don't know, Jonathan, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just the fact that the Red Sox can't hit the ball. I don't know. I just saw a line, a through line through all of that. And I just also wanted to get you agitated before I got to you. Go, John. You take it.
A little bit of the weave there from Joe Scarborough this morning to start our day. But you're right. There is a reason. We know President Trump is drawn to doing things his predecessors couldn't or wouldn't do. Well, President Trump, there's a reason why sometimes your predecessors couldn't or wouldn't do these things. First, credit to the Democrats last night. This is a testament of organization and passion. The enthusiasm is on their side. They have now beat the Republicans at their own game. I think we can agree that this mid-cycle redistricting, probably not great for our democracy writ large, but it's in play right now. Democrats get a win. Attacking the Pope, there's a reason why presidents don't go after the Holy See. You know, we have seen that really play poorly politically for President Trump. And now in Iran, yes, I mean, the Strait of Hormuz, we could pretty much say definitively closed still. There are going to be widespread ramifications for that for as long as it stays shut. Their tankers attacked last night by Iran. We're getting reports this morning. And yes, Joe, to your point, if the war were to end at this as more or less where we are now, this status quo, or even if the Strait reopens but Iran has more control over it, it's hard to assess this conflict as anything more than a defeat for the United States. And it adds to what has been a real losing streak for Trump and Republicans. And Willie, that poll that we just showed, it also has that 31% of Republicans disapprove of the job President Trump is doing. That is a gigantic number for a president who has commanded such loyalty from his own party. And, of course, had 33% overall approval. Dreadful. And though Trump's name's not on the ballot, he overshadows this coming election. And not only do strategists of both parties think the House is firmly in the Democratic column, maybe by a significant margin, there are more and more analysts in both sides of the aisle who think the Senate now may be leaning that way, too. It's going to be real close because the map is inherently favorable to Republicans, but more and more states seem to be in play. Democrats feeling much better about their chances.
Just look at that independent number, 23% approval of the voters that decide those elections in the fall. Much more on these numbers and much more in Virginia coming up in just a moment.